The hospital room was filled with panic. Machines beeped, doctors shouted, and a young girl's heartbeat was fading fast. 3 minutes, a nurse cried. Everyone prepared for the worst, until her dog, who refused to leave her side, did something so unbelievable it left even the doctors questioning everything they knew that IT had started like any other morning. The little girl laughed as she ran through the yard, her golden retriever bounding happily at her heels. They were inseparable. Wherever she went, he followed. To her, he wasn't just a pet. He was her shadow, her guardian, her best friend. Later that afternoon, she sat at the kitchen table, crayons scattered around her coloring book. The dog lay nearby, his head resting lazily on his paws, watching her with warm, trusting eyes. Everything felt safe, normal, until it happened. Without warning, the girl's hand slipped from the crayon. Her body swayed, then collapsed onto the floor. The dog jumped up, barking frantically as her parents rushed in, their screams slicing the air. Her chest barely moved, her lips paling as panic erupted. An ambulance wailed minutes later, lights flashing against the house. The dog tried to climb in beside her stretcher, but the paramedics pushed him back. Yet even as the doors slammed shut, his eyes locked onto her. He wasn't going to let her go alone. The hospital doors swung open as the paramedics rushed the girl inside. Her parents stumbled after them, frantic and terrified. But trailing behind, forcing his way through startled bystanders, came the dog. His paws skidded against the slick floor as he barked desperately, eyes fixed on the stretcher disappearing down the hall. A nurse stepped forward, blocking his path. "He can't be in here," she said firmly, trying to guide him back. But the golden retriever lowered his body and pushed harder, his nails scraping the tiles as if sheer will could carry him forward. His whines echoed, piercing the sterile walls. Security tried to grab him, but the dog darted past, slipping between legs until he found the door to the emergency room. He pressed his body against it, refusing to move. Doctors glanced up in frustration, but none could ignore the determination blazing in his eyes. That IT was clear. He wasn't leaving without her. He would wait, fight, or howl the building down if he had to. Loyalty had anchored him to her side, and nothing would break it. Inside the emergency room, the steady beep of machines filled the tense air. Doctors surrounded the girl, their voices urgent, their hands moving fast. Her pulse is dropping, one muttered, adjusting wires and tubes. The parents stood frozen, watching in horror as monitors flashed red warnings. Every second felt like a hammer striking the clock. Finally, the lead doctor turned to them, his face grim. "We're running out of time. She's suffering from severe respiratory failure. Without a miracle, she has less than 3 minutes." The words struck like thunder. The mother gasped, clutching her chest, while the father staggered back against the wall, his legs weak. Just outside the door, the dog whined louder, as if he understood the dreadful countdown. His body pressed against the cold floor, paws scratching anxiously. The seconds ticked down mercilessly, and the girl's shallow breaths grew fainter. Doctors exchanged helpless glances, their medical knowledge suddenly feeling powerless. Everyone in that room shared the same sinking realization. Unless something extraordinary happened soon, they were about to lose her forever. The emergency room door suddenly creaked open, startling the doctors. Before anyone could react, the golden retriever forced his way inside, his chest heaving, eyes locked on the girl. Nurses shouted in protest, but he ignored them completely, bounding straight toward the bed where she lay motionless under the machines. "Get him out of here," one nurse cried, moving forward. But the dog growled low, not with anger, but with a fierce, protective warning. His stance was unshakable, his eyes burning with something none of them could explain. The doctors froze, exchanging uncertain glances. Realizing this wasn't a random intrusion, he climbed onto the edge of the bed, pressing his face close to the girl's, his nose brushing the mask, delivering her final breaths. His body trembled as he let out a deep, sorrowful whine that sent chills through the room. The monitors beeped faster. As though reacting to him, the doctors could only watch, stunned, as if some invisible thread bound the child's fading life to her loyal companion's desperate fight to keep her here. Something extraordinary was unfolding before their very eyes. The girl's heartbeat faltered, the monitor shrieking in warning. "She's slipping, 30 seconds left." A nurse shouted. Chaos erupted as doctors scrambled with syringes and paddles. But in the center of it all, the dog stood still, his gaze fixed only on her. Then, with sudden urgency, he pressed his chest firmly against hers. It first. The staff gasped, thinking it was chance. But the dog moved deliberately, pushing, releasing, pushing again. His paws shifted rhythmically, mimicking the compressions doctors had just attempted. Between each press, he lowered his head, whining into her ear as if calling her back from the edge. The room froze. The lead doctor dropped his instruments, eyes wide. He's performing compressions, he whispered in disbelief. No one dared to move him now. Seconds later, a faint beep returned on the monitor. The line that had nearly gone flat began to spike again. Weak, but alive. Gasps filled the room. The impossible had happened. The dog gave one final push, then collapsed beside her, his body trembling with exhaustion. But in his eyes, there was no defeat, only hope. The room erupted in disbelief as the monitor's rhythm steadied, each fragile beep echoing like a miracle. Doctors rushed back to the bedside, checking vitals, shining lights into the girl's eyes, searching for answers. Her pulse, once fading into nothing, now fluttered back to life. This shouldn't be possible, one muttered, shaking his head. Her mother sobbed uncontrollably, clutching her husband's arm, unable to tear her eyes away from the sight of her daughter breathing again. The golden retriever remained sprawled across her chest rising and falling in sync with hers, as if their lives were bound together. Nurses whispered, some crossing themselves, others simply staring in awe. The lead doctor leaned back, his voice hushed with disbelief. We did everything, yet her heart responded to him. He gestured toward the dog, who now rested with eyes half closed, but still refused to move away. Science demanded logic. But what they had witnessed defied every explanation. Against every rule of medicine, the girl was alive, and everyone in that room knew they had just seen something extraordinary. Hours later, the girl slept peacefully in recovery, her breathing steady. But in the conference room down the hall, the medical team sat in stunned silence. Charts and test results lay scattered on the table, yet none of them explained what they had witnessed. One doctor broke the silence. We shocked her, administered everything possible, and nothing worked. Then that dog. He starts compressions, and her heart responds. How do we explain that? His voice trembled, caught between disbelief and wonder. Another shook her head. It defies logic. Animals sense things we can't, but this was an instinct. It was deliberate. The lead doctor leaned back, rubbing his temples. Maybe science will never fully explain it, but we all saw the same thing. He didn't save her by chance. He chose to. Meanwhile, in the recovery room, the golden retriever lay at the girl's bedside, his head resting near her hand. To him, there was nothing to question, only the simple truth of loyalty that medicine could not measure. Days later, the girl awoke fully, blinking at the bright hospital lights. Confusion clouded her eyes until she felt a warm, familiar weight beside her. The golden retriever lifted his head, tail thumping gently, and she smiled weakly, whispering, "You stayed." Her parents rushed to her side, tears streaming as they kissed her forehead. Doctors stood at the doorway, quietly observing the scene, still shaken by what they had witnessed. They could measure her heartbeat, track her oxygen, record every number on their machines, but none of it explained why she was alive. News of the miracle spread quickly. Neighbors, reporters, and strangers marveled at the story of the dog who refused to give up, whose final act had done what medicine could not. Back at home weeks later, the girl walked again, her dog never leaving her side. To her, he wasn't just a pet. He was her guardian, her hero, the reason she was still alive. And to the world, he became living proof that love itself could perform miracles.